The Mercy Community Garden at Georgian Court is a 4,000 square foot garden that's dedicated to vegetable production, a pollinator garden, and an outdoor classroom. And it's designed to provide both food for our local community and service opportunity for our students. Many students at Georgian Court have an obligation to do service as part of their classes. And the Mercy Community Garden has provided a number of those students with opportunities to learn really important skills that connect back to the learning in the classroom, but also provide them with that service opportunity. So for an example, we have business students who come out and help us with marketing the garden in terms of fundraising, in terms of communications. We have art students who come into the garden and paint and photograph. We've had education students who've used the garden as an opportunity to develop curriculum for outdoor education. And of course, lots of biology students who've come into the garden to do things as diverse as studying different plant types to see which gives the best yield. We've had students from the zoology class do pest management. We even had a human nutrition class come to the garden and study the use of vegetables and how the vegetables in the garden could be used to maintain healthy nutrition. So a wide variety of students come to the garden every day. Initially, honestly, the reason we started the garden was not as a service opportunity for students. That's been a lucky byproduct. Where we started the garden was because we knew that there was a really major problem with food insufficiency and food insecurity locally. People tend not to think about Lakewood, New Jersey as being a place that suffers from poverty and suffers from hunger, but unfortunately there are a large number of families who are living at or below poverty level in our area. So what we have been doing with the garden is we've been partnering with two charities. One of them is Providence House, which is a Catholic charity dedicated to women who've come from abusive relationships, providing them with a haven for themselves and their families until they get back on their feet. So we've been sending every week vegetables from the garden sufficient to support about 2 families at Providence House every week throughout the summer. And actually this year for the first time out into the fall because we put up some cold frames. Sometimes, for a variety of reasons, it's hard for our line of communications to get to Providence House. So when we have either extra produce or we have a week when we can't quite connect with Providence House, we've been using another charitable outlet, which is Visitation Relief Center in Brick. And they have a wonderful food pantry that started up as being helping families after Hurricane Sandy, but which has now become basically a permanent part, unfortunately, of our community, serving families who continue to have need. So when we have extra produce or we can't quite get to Providence House, we've taken a lot of produce, sometimes huge 10, 20, 30 pounds of tomatoes and cucumbers and zucchinis, whatever the garden gives us that week, to one of those 2 charities. Well, we have actually finally built out. We now have 30 raised beds, and that is our production garden is now complete. So we're going to work this year on increasing the productivity of that garden. We were so busy building that sometimes we didn't plant, or if we planted, we didn't harvest because we were so busy doing something else. So this year we're going to be hopefully a lot more efficient in our production from those beds. We also have about a quarter of the garden that we're planning to make a pollinator garden, which will have lots of benefits just for the ecology of the area, but also provide an attractant to pollinators that will help get us more fruit because there'll be insects there who'll come and pollinate the plants for us. So we need to finish up our pollinator garden, and we need to finish our outdoor classroom. The other program that is new is we now have a partnership with a series of schools that cater to students with special needs. So often either wheelchair bound, in some cases not even verbal children. Children who are often not provided with the same opportunities for outdoor education that the regular school system would provide. And so we now have a partnership where throughout the summer and often into the spring and fall, we now have groups of students from those schools come into the garden in their wheelchairs. And we offer them programs that involve either gardening, actually having them plant and harvest, or crafts in the garden outdoors, sort of drawing things. They've made us some beautiful wind chimes for us. They made some really interesting artwork, little markers to tell the different kinds of plants, for example. And that's been really fabulous for our students because education students have been developing curriculum for them. Our physical therapy students have, well, like pre-physical therapy students have been shadowing the physical therapist who works with them. So every time I turn around, this garden surprises me. We never thought it was going to be a service opportunity, and now it is. It's providing learning opportunities it was never supposed to. It was meant to just make food, and now it does so much more. So I'm excited to build on all of that this summer. If people were interested in coming to help with this, I mean, the first thing that they could certainly do is look for us on Facebook. The Mercy Garden has an extensive web presence and a Facebook page through which we communicate special needs, like this week we need a carpenter, or the special needs students, maybe there's an item that we need to purchase to make it possible for them to continue to be in the garden. So we're always, unfortunately, like every nonprofit, we're always looking for financial donations to keep us going. But sometimes it's donations in kind. It's sometimes things like a special skill set. We could use somebody right now who can compost, who would come in and lead up the composting program. We certainly need carpenters, which are some things you wouldn't necessarily think about in the garden. This is a really big part of the Mercy charism. Basically, this is a Catholic university, and the garden is very much in tune with the Sisters of Mercy, who one of the goals that they have is to be stewards of God's creation. So in a sense that our campus tries to live the life of the Sisters of Mercy as much as we can, this garden's an important part of us putting our money where our mouth is in terms of our mission, that we're translating words on a page into something that's very much a living document. The garden is so vibrantly part of the Mercy mission. So I'm excited about that. The other thing that we do in the garden that I don't know if everybody would know about is that we are very carefully and diligently maintaining an organic gardening program. Nothing in the garden is done except in the spirit of true organic growing, which is to say everything in the garden is about being a steward of the earth. It's about looking after the soil, it's about looking after the water, it's about choosing plants that are efficient in our climate rather than trying to push plants that shouldn't be there to grow. So we're really trying to teach students and teach everybody who comes to the garden not just about plants and animals, but also about ways in which they can bring this back into their community. And so we're hoping, that's another piece that we're looking to build, is to take the mission of our garden on the road and start having community gardens that partner with us in school systems, in 50-plus living communities, any place there are a group of people who would really like to start living this kind of a lifestyle. We'd like to be leaders in that. So I think that that's another sort of very longer-term goal for which we really need a full-time garden manager, which we don't yet have. That would be what holds us back on that, is just having the person who can have the focus and the energy to do that.